Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News, and I'm here in Red Deer, Alberta at the United Conservative Party convention. This is the largest political convention in Canadian history. Premier Danielle Smith, after a slate of pro-parent, pro-child, pro-fairness in sports announcements earlier this week, faces a leadership review on the second day of the convention. The convention's leadership review will be held Saturday, so that's tomorrow. There's been a bit of a fracture within the party, with some movement saying she is not conservative enough on a few issues. And circulating around the convention is a pamphlet from Take Back Alberta. They've issued a UCP report card. Now, Take Back Alberta, let me just say this. I admire the work that they do, and they do the important work of holding politicians to account for the promises that they make and the promises that they break. And I think it is really important for Premier Danielle Smith to have somebody to the right of her holding her to account, because all the forces in the world are going to be dragging her to the left, to the center. And when she moves to the center, the NDP start to seem normal. The media, the opposition parties, and the culture will want her to move away from her conservative roots. So it is important to have grassroots organizations holding her to account. But I thought I would go through this Take Back Alberta UCP report card because I feel like it was printed before Danielle Smith made a series of announcements this week that addressed many of the concerns in the report card. Let's go through it together.
The Alberta Bill of Rights and our government's actions to safeguard the rights and freedoms of all Albertans. In 1905, our province was founded as a free and democratic society. Alberta was built by people who valued freedom, family, and fundamental rights, values Albertans still embrace today. In 1972, those rights were enshrined in the Alberta Bill of Rights, a document that protects, among other fundamental rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to equality before the law. The Bill of Rights has served us well, but it's been more than half a century since it was introduced. In an ever-evolving world, we must be vigilant to ensure the rights and freedoms of Albertans continue to be protected. And that's why today I'm announcing the proposed amendments that, if passed, would strengthen the Alberta Bill of Rights and ensure our province remains one of the freest societies in the world. Childhood is a time of self-discovery, and we want children and youth to have the time to gain experience and explore all opportunities available to them as they grow into adulthood. We also need to be cautious when it comes to young people undergoing procedures when we don't fully know all the risks. Today, our government is introducing 3 pieces of legislation that will set up guardrails to protect the health and safety of Alberta youth.
On vaccine mandates and workplace protections, they've given Danielle Smith the grade of D, a fail, because they say she hasn't gone far enough to protect Albertans from vaccine mandates, particularly in the workplace. They call her changes to the Bill of Rights that protect people against vaccine mandates a half measure. Now, it may be a half measure in the view of Take Back Alberta. However, it gives Albertans the most strong vaccine mandate protection in this entire country.
Ultimately, a free democratic society relies on the ability of its citizens to make decisions willingly, express themselves freely, own property, and use it as they see fit. And it also relies on citizens' autonomy over their bodies and the right to make their own choices about the medical treatments they receive. No one should be pressured into accepting any medical treatment without their full consent, including a vaccine. If passed, this amendment would protect an individual's right to refuse medical care, medical treatment, or a medical procedure.
On freedom of medical choice and informed consent, they give her a C-, saying that the Bill of Rights, although it promotes bodily autonomy, it fails to include key elements that would give individuals and parents more substantial rights over medical decisions. Now, I think Danielle Smith's announcement that she would be protecting doctors from their professional organizations for advising for alternative treatments takes us one step closer to raising the grade for Danielle Smith on this issue.
The importance of free speech and the marketplace of ideas to healthy democracies is nothing new, and yet there are some troubling trends that we're seeing around the world, where several governments and governing bodies believe it is appropriate for them to determine what is true and what is misinformation, and to restrict the speech of those who disagree with them.
Sadly, we've seen this trend in Canada over the last several years as professional colleges and other regulating bodies have been exerting their authority far beyond their legitimate mandate by attempting to regulate the personal beliefs and political opinions of the doctors, lawyers, psychologists, and other professionals they oversee. Law Society of Alberta and the College of Physicians and Surgeons, as examples, have a very important role to play. They protect the public interest by setting standards of competence, so Albertans can be confident in the services professionals provide. They also set standards of conduct, integrity, and financial governance, ensuring that professionals uphold the trust placed in them and don't misuse their positions to take advantage of others. Those are the appropriate responsibilities of professional regulatory bodies. However, what professional governing bodies must not involve themselves in is regulating the speech and beliefs of their members outside of their professional duties. What a doctor or lawyer believes or says about politics or religion is not a reflection of their competency to practice medicine or law.
On accountability for government overreach during COVID-19, they gave Danielle Smith a grade of an F. Now, Danielle Smith, as we know, apologized for the mistakes of her predecessor, Jason Kenney. They were not her mistakes, but she apologized anyway.
I can apologize right now. I'm deeply sorry for anyone who was inappropriately subjected to discrimination as a result of their vaccine status. I'm deeply sorry for any government employee that was fired from their job because of their vaccine status, and I welcome them back if they want to come back.
And this week she announced major changes to how public health emergencies are determined.
Well, look, I mean, we're making it pretty clear what the relationship is between our government and its citizens. I think when we turn back the clock a couple of years, I think we'll realize that a lot of those mandates came in because of provincial government mandates, provincial government direction, and provincial government sanction. And we're letting people know we're not going to do that. That the provincial government will not put in mandates that force somebody to take a medical procedure that they don't want to take.
Number 4, on vaccine recommendations and public health policy, Take Back Alberta gives her a grade D. They say many of us who supported Smith hoped for a shift in public health policy, particularly regarding the government's role in vaccine recommendations and their associated risks. They say that Alberta Health Services continues to recommend COVID vaccines for children as young as 6 months. Again, I think this issue is entirely addressed by Danielle Smith's changes to the ability of professional organizations to hold doctors responsible. Many doctors were scared to tell people the truth for fear that they would lose their job, the same way many people took the vaccine because they were worried they would lose their job.
In our UCP government's view, it is not appropriate for this government or any professional regulatory body to compel Albertans to some official version of truth. George Orwell's fictional 1984 should remain fiction. To ensure the government of Alberta better respects the rights of Albertans, we will introduce amendments to the Alberta Bill of Rights this fall, as previously announced. And to ensure our professional regulators stay within their mandates, our government is launching a review of Alberta's regulated professions to ensure the freedom of speech, expression, and belief of their members is adequately protected. And we will bring legislative changes next year to ensure that professional regulatory bodies are limited to regulating their members' professional competence and conduct, and not their speech.
And to go one step further, perhaps this isn't a Danielle Smith issue for her to solve, because policy resolution number 7, which will be voted on Saturday, also says that they're calling on the United Conservative Party to support a parental bill of rights, which ensures that parents are the decision makers all the time during health care. So perhaps this isn't an issue for government to fix. It's an issue for parents to fix. And on the general COVID-19 response, Take Back Alberta has given Danielle Smith grade C. Again, Danielle Smith wasn't in charge during COVID, but I think she's done her very best to make sure that the civil liberties bonfire of COVID never occurs ever again. And she included the protections of civil liberties this week in the Public Health Act, going even one step further.
Our government will always stand up for the rights of Albertans. It is our honor and our duty to do so. Our province is founded and grounded on individual freedom and personal responsibility. These amendments to the Alberta Bill of Rights are not just legal changes. They are a reaffirmation of the values that make Alberta one of the freest jurisdictions on earth. They are about protecting our rights and our freedoms and ensuring our province continues to be home to freedom, democracy, and a way of life that we will continue to cherish for generations.
So that's my take on the overall grade for Danielle Smith. Take Back Alberta gave her a grade D. I'll give her a B+. For Rebel News here at the UCP AGM in Red Deer, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see all of our reporting here on the ground at the United Conservative Party AGM in Red Deer, please go to unitedconservatives.ca.